This is the AI Assisted Organization podcast hosted by myself, Piers and my co-host and co-founder of Implement AI, Dr. Aalok Shukla. Hi, Aalok. So you're in Madrid.
Hi, Piers. I am. I like Madrid.
Where you go? You driving Portugal into France?
Exactly, yeah. So we stopped off in Madrid on the way to France, and yeah, spending a couple of days here. Don't know if you've ever been to Madrid. It's really nice and one of my favorite cities.
Well, I'm driving from London to Lancashire, which is it's not quite as a picturesque or quite the road trip, but that's what I'm doing this week. So we're going to be taking a few weeks off. It's going to be the last one we're doing until January in terms of the podcast. So the theme, we're going to do AI for business. We've got some updates, which is really we're quite interesting at the end of the year. It just hasn't, it's things are still progressing. And our theme is going to be, we're going to give some predictions for 2024 in terms of, and we'll try and relate them to business as well, as opposed to just, but there are some in there which are more sort of general sort of AI predictions. So I think 2024 is going to be a massive year. So that's going to be our theme today. And of course, we'll cover some of our usual Implement AI updates. So let's get into the news. So I was going to say it's December, so there is no news, but you can't even joke about that.
There is.
Yeah, there's always news, isn't
It's
there?
not slowing down.
So there's a whole thing which I'm not going to dwell on too much. There's a whole thing about has there been a GPT-4 leak? Is it already out there? Is the model being used? So people were kind of breaking into the system prompt and asking, what model are you using? It was saying 4.5, but apparently it's some kind of hallucination. They're not using 4.5. I think Sam Altman sort of poured cold water on that. But apparently, though, GPT-4, which is one of the reasons why this kind of appeared, this sort of conspiracy theory, is that GPT-4 apparently is performing better than it was. So whether they purchase more GPUs or change the system prompt, we don't know. But that's good news for all of us. And also, if you want to use ChatGPT Plus, it's now available again. It was kind of locked down because after the dev day, there was so much demand for it that they couldn't handle it. So I think they again bought some more GPUs, been around to Nvidia and had a chat with
From
Jensen.
Jensen. Hey, Jensen,
Yeah,
so hook me
been
up.
around to see Jensen, coffee and some GPUs, and off they go again. So if you're not, I keep saying this, right? If you're not using, you can use other ones. We talked about it last week, didn't we? All the different LLMs, but if you're not using GPT Plus yourself, then you should be. It's going to be the best $20 a month you're probably going to spend every month for the foreseeable future.
Honestly, it's the most underpriced thing ever.
Yeah, no, it is. So moving on, Claude. So Claude is another large language model we use quite a lot. One with a big context window. Quite good at dealing with long documents and producing long documents as well. So they've now integrated Claude into Google Sheets, which is quite interesting on a couple of levels. One is the fact that they've actually managed to do that. So you're now seeing these language models are appearing in productivity suites. They're appearing in different applications as well. So this allows, they call it the seamless integration between Claude and Google Sheets. Now, I haven't actually used this, so I can't tell you what it's like, how it works, but allows you to execute sort of interactions using generative AI in cells. Now, I'm trying to picture a
Any
use
text
case for that.
box.
Yes, any text box you can make intelligent.
Well, formulas, right? Like, so if you want to like try and figure out like how to do this or how to do that, you can just say, I want to do this between this and this. They had this with GPT, with Excel, for example, like trying to learn all those Excel formulas. I remember like last year, I was trying to like, I had a couple of people on my team who were really good at like Excel, and so if I needed stuff, I'd just give it to them because honestly, like trying to Google it and find the stuff is not a good exercise, and you start seeing old web pages with out of date versions of Microsoft. Now you can just kind of say, I want to do this with this, and it will be able to do that. Like GPT can do that, and now if Claude can do that within there, 100%, and this just unlocks the spreadsheet power for everyone, basically.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I guess things like you'll see things like Airtable as well. You'll probably see this is going to turn up there pretty soon, and you're going to see it in Excel anyway. Because Copilot for Microsoft, when we actually get our hands on it, it also runs across all of the productivity suites, all the applications. So that's quite an interesting one. You're sort of seeing that other companies, other application developers embedding this technology in their actual products.
I mean, just look at it. You imagine you download a sheet and you say like, please remove the duplicates. Please highlight all the ones which have the value more than this. Please do like you could literally. It's like talking to having someone next to you who knows how to use it, basically, right? Like that unlocks a lot of power for people.
Yeah, you're right. It's the old talking to technology, which is where the world's going finally, thank goodness.
Coming in the
So me,
predictions. Coming in the
oh yeah,
predictions.
yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, yeah. So moving on, Gemini Pro. So this is we mentioned it last week. Google have launched Gemini Nano Pro and Ultra is coming next year. It's now available via the API, and that's quite interesting. It's got quite a small context window. So again, I think Google kind of got this out of the ship this as quickly as they could. It's not quite ready for the sort of mainstream yet, but it's now available by API. So we tend to use models when we're working with our clients using the API. We're not sitting in a chatbot asking it questions. So it's quite an
The
important
power
development,
programs or
but it's one you
agents.
expect, isn't it? But what's interesting,
Did
Alok,
you?
it supports 38 languages.
But what's even more interesting is, have you seen the pricing?
Yeah,
Up to 60 calls a minute for free. Google are going all in on their cash reserves. Basically, they're basically saying like, I can I can deliver stuff for free from my own infrastructure for longer than you can be funded. So that's a very big advantage when you think about like how many developers there are in different countries and being able to offer up to 60 API calls a minute for free. That's a very aggressive posture. I mean, basically, commercial
yeah,
language,
because it adds up, doesn't it?
a lot. It was quite funny. Like I was looking at the pricing for some of the stuff, and like if you think about like how much it costs like per hour of like calling or whatever like this, but if you're offering it for free up to 60 a minute, there's so many new programs that will come.
Yeah, and also you can use this in Google Studio for developers. So it's more for developers really. But so Gemini is going to be is interesting. It's definitely a player now, and I think when we see Ultra next year, which I think is going to be probably, we don't know exactly, but sometime in Q1, then it is going to be a real competitor against OpenAI and Anthropic.
They will release it when they're sure that it can definitely beat GPT-4. Because right now they put some papers out saying that like it's better, but no one's had the chance to externally validate that yet. So I think they're still beefing up the system.
One of our predictions about the size of context window. So I think when they do launch Ultra, it'll have a bigger context window.
300,000.
Yeah, will we get to 1 million? Although that's a lot of context. I mean, that's like you're talking about the whole Harry Potter series, then, which I'm not sure a lot of people are actually going to be able to use. Anyway, so Gemini Pro, you can now use the API. Now, I'm not going to go through them all. There's various model launches. You've got Stability AI have launched a 3D image generation from 2D images, which is really interesting, actually, having to play with it. So you take a 2D picture, different angles, you upload it, and then it basically fills it in, the blanks, and creates a 3D image,
Wow.
which is quite useful for lots of companies. So what you're going to be able to see is, you're going to see this merge, aren't you, of sort of artificial intelligence, quantum computing down the line, and the metaverse. So you're going to be able to scan stuff, and then just take photos of stuff,
Your phone.
or yourself actually, and just upload it into the sort of a 3D, a metaverse, a 3D world. So that's quite interesting. Google have launched Google Music FX. There's quite a few of these. I was playing with is it Suno.ai in a Copilot? It's in Bing, but you can also go to the website this morning. I was making stupid little songs and sent it to my daughter about them, which is so. Again, the interesting thing there is personalization. I think is that you can now create content. So we always say that you're moving from personalization. So you've got a customer profile. You've got 5 different emails you can send them, or 5 different interactions. And based on the profile, you send a different one. You're moving from personalization to hyper personalization, where if you've got 2,000 customers, you're going to send 2,000 different pieces of content. There'll be 2,000 interactions that are tailored. So whether it's written, whether it's music, with video, 3D, songs, you can send them a Christmas jingle now about them with their name in it and their business, which is, it's not going to change the world, but those interactions matter.
Yeah, there's two bits like so one from the music AI. There was like a very funny one. I think I sent it to you where they crossed like "Have a Holly Jolly Christmas" with "Get Low" by Lil Jon basically, and that was quite crazy basically because it's taking the hip hop lyrics and sung in the sound of like "Holly Jolly Christmas." But coming to your point about hyper personalization, I heard somewhere on a podcast someone was talking about like next year in the US election there will be AIs potentially that will be watching all of the transcripts of somebody and then potentially providing one message, one targeted message at the right time to like potentially shift the kind of perception. So it's going to be it's going to be a challenging it's going to be a challenging thing next year when hyper-personalization is applied in that way, basically. So
And I think on the predictions, we're going to talk about models on devices. So Microsoft have also launched Phi 2. I don't know where all these names come from. I can't keep up with them. So this is about 2.7 billion parameters. So this is in terms of large language models, quite a small one. And the idea there is you're going to compete with these sort of models that can work on phones or edge devices. So, for example, Google Nano, Google Gemini Nano, or watches. God, there's so many predictions you can have for next year, isn't there? I don't think watches made it in there either. So there's endless model launches, and a lot of these are proprietary ones. You're seeing things that are Meta as well, and they've all got slightly different use cases. So I don't know what you think, Alok, whether you can have this sort of proliferation of models, or whether
yes.
eventually, as you start moving towards kind of AGI, you have one model that can do everything. And this is the big question: is that you can have lots of specialized models or very powerful general models?
I think there's going to be both. I think that like the AGI, the path towards AGI is going to become like a kind of like a swarm, or like a conflagration, federation of agents that can do different things. Jan LeCun was talking about that, basically, like how different ones passing together and working together will be able to like kind of do that. And then I think that with the very powerful models, like for example GPT-4, like that can actually do quite well in medical diagnoses. Caveat obviously all that kind of stuff, but with the right prompting. But I'm trying to say like there's a very powerful general models will play a role. But the thing is, like, fridges, washing machines, everything is going to be able to like have AI embedded, to understand what's in your
All
fridge.
that exciting tech.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can have the most intelligent dishwasher.
Basically
I
everything,
know.
right?
I don't my dishwasher answering back.
Well, it can tell you.
I've been arguing with your
Imagine
washing
it tells
machine.
you, like, what's going on, how much food residue there is, or this or that. Like, I mean, there's so much stuff that
But you can imagine you'd be able to hold up garments in
yeah,
front of your washing machine and say, "How do I wash that? Can I put this in with this?" It'll go, "Yeah, you can."
correct. Well, I mean, that's going to
It's
come, isn't
crazy,
it?
isn't
Right?
it?
Like all that stuff.
Crazy. So just on that then, so on while you mentioned AGI, Sam Altman, he's the CEO of OpenAI, makes ChatGPT. He was at some event and made a comment. I'm going to read it. Actually, it's quite interesting. I think AGI will be the most powerful technology humanity has yet invented, particularly in terms of democratizing access to information globally. If you think about the cost of intelligence and the quality of intelligence, and the cost falling and the quality increasing by a lot, and what people can do with that, he said, it's a very different world. It's the world that sci-fi has promised us for a long time. And I was watching that podcast with Lex Fridman and Jeff Bezos,
Discovered.
which is quite 2 hours long, but it's quite interesting. Where, yeah, and Jeff Bezos made the point. He said that large language models are not really an invention; they're more a discovery. And what he means by that is that they don't, they built these things. They don't actually know. It's not like a machine where you pull a
Like a
lever
plane.
and something
The
happens.
plane can't
It
do
just sits.
anything
Yeah,
that
well,
you
like a
haven't planned
plane.
for
Yeah,
it. A
exactly.
plane can't do anything that you haven't designed it for, right? It's not going to suddenly have an emergent
Yeah,
capability.
there's no
There's no
surprises.
there's no
You
emergent
said
capability.
that. You don't want any surprises on an aeroplane.
But LLMs, we still haven't.
Yeah, they've got, what do you call it? They've got emergent capabilities. That's doing things that don't quite know how they're doing it. So I think that was really interesting, is that if they're a discovery and we're still
That's the
discovering
right
the
way.
power of them.
That's the right.
Again, we always say that.
Yeah, that's the right way
Yeah, we
to.
always say that even if you stop today, it changes the world because we still don't
I'll
know.
just
We
give you
still don't fully understand the power of these things.
like an example. I was on the weekend. I was writing down a list of like Charlie Munger died, right? Like Warren Buffett's like business partner, and he had it's a very very wise man and very good book, and he talks about lots of different things where, for example, to solve any problem you invert. So you look at like, okay, rather than how can I grow my business, you say how would I destroy my business, and then you say, okay, I would not look after customers, I would not reach out to people, I would never do what I said I would do, and all that kind of stuff. So I was listing down for myself. I was trying to like think about different patterns or habits or behaviors and stuff like this that kind of like hold me back in some way. And then what I did was I made a list of 10 and then I put it into ChatGPT-4 and I started talking with it and it started giving me these are the underlying behaviors, these are the underlying things. And then I could have an impartial, non-emotional conversation. It was very insightful because then I was able to then get the opposite from it. So what I'm trying to say is like the power of these technologies, like being able to like work with it and even discover edge cases and new ways to work with it for your own personal development, for your own business, for different things. We haven't even discovered or scratched the surface of what's possible yet, basically. Because I could totally see an extension of that where it could be tracking what I'm doing on a daily basis, and it could call me up on where I'm like violating or doing stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen now. We're going to discover.
Yeah, I think we're actually creating a training course, aren't we? Which we've just done it, just completed, I think, which is for training people to use personal AIs, especially business leaders like we do. So another one, which is another interesting development. So Stability AI have now launched what they call a membership. So just like ChatGPT, you can now pay. It's $20. Funnily enough, $20 to use it's for commercial, what they call professional usage, and this gives you access to there's a range of like models, and it's basically like an enterprise version like ChatGPT. So you're now seeing that if you purchase Claude, which is ChatGPT, and also Stability. You got Anthropic, OpenAI, and Stability AI. Probably spending $60 a month, which it starts to add up. But then you've kind of got everything you need. Then, and you got Google for free, really, for the moment. So think about those four businesses offering the capability they're offering you is bonkers for not a huge amount of money, and it can change the way you operate personally and change the way you operate your business as well. Another interesting development, moving on, is that OpenAI have done a deal with Axel Springer. Now, you may have never heard of Axel Springer, but it's quite a large media company. It owns various media publications around the world, and I think it looks like to me they're trying to avoid a lawsuit. So they have things like Business Insider, quite well-known publications. And rather than go to court, they've kind of done a deal where that when you now use OpenAI or ChatGPT, it's going to reach out into their kind of news and find more relevant and topical information and bring it back. The interesting thing there is if you've only got one outlet, it's going to be biased. There's always bias in any media. So I don't know how they're going to work around that one. And again, like I always say, that it's like the record labels and Spotify, right? How they work out their economics, we don't care. I think the end user is going to benefit from the power of these things. It's up for those organizations to work it out.
This is the opening of a very interesting door. So think about like Apple, right? Like when they made like iTunes, they took the album and they fragmented it into songs, basically, isn't it? Right? So you could just buy a song for £1, basically, right? And then the whole point there was like people might just want to buy particular songs, 3 from here, 3 from there, whatever, like this. This is one publisher. Imagine Kindle. Imagine that they start saying, okay, you want to learn about productivity, but that's from these 10 authors, these 10 books. Our AI model is going to give you the best chapters from each of those books in the way that you want it, in a different way. So we're going to move to, I think, like these LLMs are going to cannibalize so many types of media and almost repurpose them, because why do you want to like read, hunt through Business Insider when it can actually like give you all the productivity things from, HBR, this, that. I think we're going to see a very interesting way.
Well, this is the weird thing, isn't it? So we've talked about the internet going away, right? Having these places you have to go and visit in cyberspace, and Google used to help you find them. But what these outlets want to do, obviously, is have a paywall and lock down their content, which is fair enough. But that then doesn't really work when you're trying to access and search the internet using large language models. It works as search because you find it, you read half an article, and they sort of it fades out, they lock it off, and maybe you'll subscribe. So it's going to be interesting to see, and this is kind of the first step towards it, as you say. But again, this is just Business Insider. I think they also own Politico, and some in Europe as well. So do I want to hear just business related news from one outlet with its own bias? That's a bit I don't fully understand. But they're going to have to work out a way where these large language models can access this information, and just like the record labels, they can share the spoils in terms of those subscriptions. Another interesting one, if you're in business, is something that we've talked about on the pod before, and also we do in a lot of our training and our sort of our consulting, is talent. So talent acquisition. Why is someone going to come and work for you if you're not augmenting them with artificial intelligence?
Training them.
But also, you have to start. You're going to start approaching talent in a different way. Does somebody need to have a degree? They need to spend years, at school or college or university, learning things by rote. If you've got intelligence and access to, all of mankind, all humankind's information, how do you start to analyze what kind of people you want working on business? You can start to focus much more on them,
Yeah.
as opposed to what school, college, or degree they've got. And this came out of an article which is basically it sort of commented on some comments by a VP at LinkedIn saying that the shelf life of a college degree is shrinking dramatically.
I agree. It's completely obsolete. Like I remember like a long time ago, I think it was like in 2008, I started doing an MBA basically because I thought like when I was trying to like set up my first business, I was looking for a premises, and I started doing an MBA, and I went and I started looking at like the content and stuff like that at that point. And honestly, it was like nothing to do with the internet, nothing to do with like, technology. And that's kind of where I wanted to kind of focus. And I was thinking, am I really going to spend X thousand pounds like on completing this? So me and my friend, we were doing it. We just stopped it after like one semester because it was just not in the direction we want to see things. And I can see it now. Like if you're going to study and learn, a degree in business or this, and if it has no link to technology, data, AI, how things are going to work, even like, outsourcing, remote work, remote teams, it's irrelevant. And actually, I would argue that you're actually de-skilling. The years that you're learning something which is not relevant for the modern world is actually a de-skilling. So, because you've lost the opportunity to actually learn, practice, and almost perfect, working in the new world. And we see ourselves from working with the technology. The more we work with it, the more things we uncover, the more things we see. So honestly, I think it's going to be like a sharp shock, because how can you justify some of these degree qualifications when you think about like what the outputs can be from some of the courses that we teach, like from the skills and the productivity you can gain from stuff that we can teach, and the fraction of the cost of that is compared to like what you might learn from like a year 3 year degree. I mean, I did a thing a summer school, and gave 1 hour presentation to this private school earlier in the year with George, and the students said they learned more in 1 hour than they learned in like almost like a whole week or month of school basically. So I mean, degrees, they need to change.
Yeah, it's true. If we do our if we do our workshops or some of our training courses, by the end of it, their minds are literally blown in terms of not just what they've learned and the
But the
insights they've had, but
possibilities,
they can also start to see, well, yeah, the possible. How can I can actually see right now how I can implement this in my
yeah.
business or in my personal life and make a difference. So I think we're not going to see that in 2024. It's not a prediction, but I think going out over 5 years, you have to start
Well,
looking at talent differently and augmenting it.
did you see the debacle about those colleges in the States, about Harvard and all those guys? Basically, like they were like trying to, they were testifying and they were pushing some kind of political agenda. But the bottom line is, applications to Harvard have like started dropping because they can see that like some of these institutions is, and I've got no judgment on this, but like it's not just about education; it's also about pushing a particular point of view, which may or may not reflect your worldview. So I think that these kind of organizations are going to basically, you know, the badges of importance are going to drop. It's going to be about what can you do and what can you deliver, basically. So then we go to pure
Yeah, that's good because
meritocracy.
you want education to be democratized.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly that. Because I've been through the mill. I went from my comprehensive school to the city of London, like is Wall Street in America, and you see the blockers along the way. For many people, just won't get over them. So now, if you can democratize access to training or education, the two different things, it's gonna change the world again. Anyone now, and you're going to see these small models, no matter where you are, you don't even need to be connected to the internet. Anyone now can have the super intelligence, not quite super, but intelligence and access to huge amounts of information. Well, it's not super yet, but
well,
when it is
yeah.
super
Well, I
intelligence,
consider it
well, I suppose it depends what you're comparing it to. I suppose, yeah.
like if you look at
Yeah, I
like
don't get that. People always say about AI, but they always say, "Oh, it's as clever as like a young child." I'm like, well,
no.
what young
There's
child
different metrics.
absorbed the internet
There,
and could do three things
yeah.
at once? Yeah,
The thing is, like, they conflate like the different kind of definitions of intelligence and different bits, and like the ability to like learn, and the neural network that's running. But I mean, the bottom line is we can all see that like how things are going. If you can access the internet now, you have tremendous power.
yeah. Well, let's move on. That's the news. We'll leave it there. So again, implement AI. So we're going to take a break until January now. So it gives you lots of time to go and read our white papers, our AI assisted organization white paper. That's our framework. Got also one on the AI agent. So that's about augmenting your workforce. So how do you create an augmented workforce to absolutely superpower them as well? Sign up for our AI Insider newsletter and have a look at our training courses. This is
2024
growing rapidly. We're kind of delivering
training.
lots of training now, and there's I think any individual. So if you're a business leader, we've got a course to help you use personal AIs. But anyone organization. We do for groups of 10 people. It's interactive with a trainer. It's not just sitting there watching a video. You actually learn and interact with them. So training is actually really important and usually the first step. And next year, we're also going to be rolling out more of AI Activate, which is our 60-day sprint. And we've also now just recruited our first sales
Team member.
development representative.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So we're growing now. We're probably going to see the team grow quite a lot during 2024 as well.
One thing for the training for next year, like so, just if people don't are aware that the government have this office for AI, and they've got some recommendations on like what skills need to be for training, and we're pleased to say that like we're organizing packages of our course to actually exceed what they're looking for. You know, so if you're trying to like upskill your team for next year, definitely you need to like get your team on board, 100%.
Yeah, it's quite a low bar, isn't it, in terms of what the government recommends. So we're kind of doing that, and then a lot more. And also, everything we do tends to
Of
it tends
course.
to relate more to business, doesn't it? It's not just about learning about AI safety. So that's something we are also working on. So let's move on to our themes, right? Now we've
So
got
you
10,
do
I
one,
think,
I'll
haven't
do
we?
one, basically.
So
Like, so you do yours, and then we
um,
can alternate ours, basically, right?
so I think one kind of high level generic one I think is that generative AI it's not going to suffer from this people talk about it all the time, this trough of
No.
disillusionment. You have these hype cycles where everyone gets excited and then it all kind of tapers off and people lose interest, right? Crypto is a good example of that. So several of them. Metaverse was a great example of that, although that will come back eventually. And I think what you're not going to see in 2024 is a trough of disillusionment. You're going to see AI start to go mainstream. And it's going to be one of those things where I think you're already seeing this, where it's starting to pervade and permeate almost everything you do. And it's going to be a point where you don't even know it's doing it. You'll be holding up your washing in front of your washing machine and chatting to it about how you should treat this garment without even thinking about it. Your fridge will be telling you what you need to make a
Yeah.
particular dish and it'll order it for you. So that's not going to happen next year, but AI is going to pervade and permeate everything we do and all technology. So 2024, you're going to still see a huge amount of news, billions of pounds going into
Billions.
it. You may see, you're going to see Gemini Ultra. Maybe we see a GPT-5 next year. Who knows? But you're not going to see the trough of disillusionment.
Yep, I agree with that.
Prediction number one.
Okay, I'll say my first prediction. Voice is going to be everywhere. The voice interface is going to be everywhere. It's going to be talking to your. I mean, I remember seeing like this thing. Who was it? Like, I gave a computer to someone, and then it was a kid, someone young, and they started like touching on the screen basically, and they were realizing that it wasn't a touch screen, but they were like, this is rubbish basically, right? Because it's not a touch screen. And in the same way, it's like if if you don't have a voice interface, if you can't just talk to the thing and make it do what you want, it's going to seem broken. And next year, we're going to see websites where you just talk to it and say what you want and about you. There's going to be like any kind of interface everywhere. So voice is going to be huge. And we've got some very exciting developments that we're working in our own voice lab for businesses to be able to do that. But voice is going to explode. Alexa everywhere, but not just Alexa, in anything basically. You know, voice assistance is going to be enormous.
My next one then. So personal AI adoption. Okay. So we use this all the time. We talk to ChatGPT. There's not much we do without it's somewhat in some way having one of these large language models involved in the conversation or the
Yeah.
process. And I think that you as an individual listening to this, you can superpower, upskill, improve your chances in business or in your career, whatever it is you do, using this technology. So I think what you can, and the things like Pi, they're developing personal AIs. There's lots of large language models we talked about last week on the pod. So personal AI adoption is going to take off next year as people start to understand the power of this technology.
I agree. Mine pairs very well with that. Local AI on mobile devices. So in order to make it even more adopted, like I use like an app called Things, for example, and it's got like an app on my phone and on my watch. And if I'm walking out and about and I got an idea, I can just add an idea by just talking about it on my watch, and it just gets added in there. But when you've got local LMs, it could actually expand on that and say, "Did you mean this?" or "What about this?" or "How would you thought about this?" basically. And imagine being able to like have that conversation, refine your idea, almost you know in a much better way very quickly on an edge device or a mobile device. So, pendants, pins, watches, anything that we got small LLMs working on different models, it unlocks all sorts of opportunities, from cameras, ring doorbells, from everything basically, So I think local AI is going to be huge.
All right, so one which I think we can't ignore the potential negative downsides, not from AI itself or from people using it and bad actors. So I think next year we're going to see, I don't know what the scale of it will be, but we're going to see one or two quite large
Yeah.
cybersecurity breaches or threat using artificial intelligence. It might be some of these one organization attacking a government or a well-known organization, but I think you're going to start to see that arms race kicking.
You're going to see much more targeted spear phishing, basically where, the AI has read the emails of someone and then it can send like a really targeted, it appears to be personal email to try to get like, transfer or something like this. Like I've already seen a few like where, a particular provider is trying to say that, oh, your card has expired. And I looked at it, it's like, that's a phishing link. So those things will go up next year. But then the defense will be AIs as well, isn't it? Right. So that will be.
Yeah, it's going to be an arms race, but and it's for those organisations that produce cybersecurity. And Microsoft's a big
Controversial
one.
topic. The same company does both, the offense and the defense.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but that arms race, we haven't really seen a lot of it yet, but it's gonna start affecting all of us.
Yeah. Okay. My prediction. I mean, it's linking onto the mobile devices, but like the AI is going to come for all the operating systems. I mean, it's already in Windows Copilot, but on the Mac, on the iPad, on the iPhone, Siri's going to get a lot smarter. You're going to have it like built into your desktop where you can just ask questions to your computer about what you want to do. You could even say, look, I want to study and work hard for the next 3 hours. Please restrict internet access. Please ensure this. Please only allow me to open these websites. Stuff. Very interesting things will start coming in, basically. And even imagine if there's the persistent personal AI on your computer that knows your goals for the month and knows what you're trying to do and literally works with you to help you. So I think that's going to be huge.
I think next year you're going to start seeing. We don't quite know how it's going to be measured, so you might see it in public companies, which may be sort of slower to adopt AI, but you'll also probably feel it in your own sectors. But businesses that are using AI, so AI assisted organizations, are going to start to outperform. And that's going to be across the board. So we're saying that it's not about just, getting rid of costs and people. It's about being able to grow your business without adding costs. So this is an inevitable outcome of artificial intelligence. And I can see another prediction there, so I won't spoil your thunder. But businesses using AI will outperform or start to outperform.
I agree. Mine was like basically the first AI winners will start to emerge in non-tech sectors. I think that the biggest opportunities are in the non-tech businesses when they can start having the AI operating system within there. We've already, seen there's so many industries in, construction, in retail, in different areas like this, where you start to like bring intelligence to that whole system. There's so many new opportunities. So we'll start to see, like just like IKEA were turning, their remote sales team into like interior designers, and you're talking about like how you can take photos and stitch into 3D. We're going to see some really cool, use cases. Airbnb are talking about like how they can have like a personal travel agent, for example, built into their site where the AI knows your travel goals and where you like to go and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to start to see some really interesting applications next year. And I predict the non-tech sectors will have some of the most exciting ones, basically.
Yeah, a lot of AI news you talk about is companies is using AI or AI software as a service companies offering a service. You don't hear much about, like you say, organizations from all sectors, how they're actually using it, something we're focused on. And again, going back to our white papers, our AI agent white paper, next year, I think you're going to start to see organizations. You've seen this in the US in some cases more than other places. Some organizations now are going to permanently appoint AI agents to their
Yep.
teams. So they'll be augmenting their human resource. There'll be humans in the loop still. You're not going to sort of full autonomy quite yet. I'm not quite there yet. But you're going to see AI agents joining your team from 2024.
And this will be simpler than you think. It will be basically a person on Slack, well, an agent will be on Slack, and you'll message them just like anything else, and they will do that task. Or they could be on WhatsApp or Signal. So the thing is, like, role-specific AIs are totally going to join the organization in the agent form, and it'll be no different than in interacting with a remote team member on Slack. And that's where the magic is going to start to become unlocked.
Again, it's like I say, it's like microwave oven. No one really knows how microwaves work, but it is, it makes a nice jacket potato. So you're going to start to see artificial intelligence appear. You'll start to use it. You'll start to interface with it, talk to it, engage, communicate, collaborate, learn from it. without actually, in many ways, realizing it's artificial intelligence. You'll know it is, but it's going to feel so sort of human.
Yeah.
You won't have that barrier. So that's going to start next year. I mean, we're definitely deploying AI agents with our clients from next year, and hopefully we'll see more of that. And the last one for me is because of my background in M&A, I can't help myself. Is that if you think about a lot of these companies, they've got the same kind of technology, I suppose, underlying technology, need the same kind of talent. They all need to raise a lot of money.
Yeah.
So are you going to start seeing LLM M&A or these tech companies start? You're not going to see Microsoft merge with Amazon or Microsoft and
No.
Google, clearly, that kind of level. But at the next sort of level down, these companies are worth, multiple billions, which is small change for a lot of large companies. Are you going to see them acquired? A good example would be, would Microsoft acquire OpenAI, for example?
Or Anthropic and
So I think you're going to
Perplexity
see
or something
LLM
like that.
M&A.
Like, so
Yeah, exactly, because it makes sense.
I think as funding starts to dry out, because the thing is, one thing I've noticed is all these companies are being very aggressive in like offering free credits or offering a subsidized start, and if they're all basically trying to burn cash, try and get you as customers, that's basically someone's going to run out of chips first, basically, isn't it? So I think that everything works much faster now. And I would have actually thought 2026 this might happen, but given how fast everything is working, probably be 2025.
Yeah. So that's it for our predictions, really. There were lots of others, but we try to keep them sort of real. So hopefully, in a year's time, we'll come back and see
How wrong?
from that list there, what we've got 10 there. We'll see how wrong or how right we were. So let's finish on AI of the week. Now, this is a quick one, but I've been using it again. We use it for the pod and various other people. Is Adobe Speech Enhancer, right? If you're creating audio content, right? I'm here now recording. I can hear a police siren outside. I'm in London, and I want to get rid of it. Or you can have quite awful actually air conditioning units, wind. You put your audio through Adobe Speech Enhancer, and it just cleans it up. And it's kind of free. You don't have to pay some enormous subscription to Adobe. So it's a fantastic tool to use if you're generating audio, which most people are now in terms of their content. So that's it, really. That's it for this year. We've had quite a year on this podcast. Thank you for following us. Thank you for coming with us on this journey. It's evolved over time. I'm going to try and we've been struggling the last few weeks just getting it done because we've been working with clients and moving around quite a lot. But next year we're looking at how we sort of maybe up the production of it, really, maybe have guests. As soon as you do that, obviously, I can't just myself and Aalok having a chat. So we're looking at what we do with the pod next year. And again, please do get in contact with us. Please do follow the pod, subscribe on YouTube, download our white papers, sign up for AI Insider newsletter. Next year is going to be bonkers. I think 2023 was really the warm up. We're going to get a full run at artificial intelligence during 2024. And we wish you all, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, to enjoy the holidays. And we'll see you again in January.
We'll see you next year. This year was the trailer. Next year's the main show. Have a great one.
Okay, cheers. Bye.